from the MCPLive.tv studios, located in downtown Conroe, it's the Conroe Art League, live.
Hello and welcome to Cal Live, the show that introduces you to the many talented artists of the Conroe Art League and to the beautiful art that they create. My name is Ken Roy. I'm the president of the Art League and your host today. And our guest today is one of my favorite members of the Conroe Art League, Norma Godfrey. She's also one of the first members that I met and worked with when I was the show chair, because Norma at the time was in charge of, it's a bad term, but it's the hanging team that we're hanging the art, displaying the art on the wall. And I learned, I hope I can share this story with you, Norma, but I learned that at receptions I would introduce someone to Norma, and my standard introduction, you may remember, is don't boss her and don't cross her. Norma Godfrey. So Norma, welcome, and let me tell the audience a little bit about your background. And you've been with the Art League for so long, a lot of people know your background, but for me, I didn't know where you were from, and so I've learned that you're originally from Abilene, yes. Born and raised in Abilene, but at some point your family made their way to Brownwood, and going to come back to Brownwood for a comment later, but I guess you graduated from high school in Brownwood, and then
Abilene.
You went back to Abilene,
Yeah.
So it was Abilene, Brownwood, and
we
back
started
to
out in Brownwood.
Uh-huh.
I was born in Abilene.
Oh,
and
okay.
And
went to Brownwood.
Okay. And I was also mascot of Howard Payne University.
That's what I was going to come back and ask you.
So we'll go back.
No, we're there now. So let's say, what does the mascot at Howard Payne University, what does that look like?
Well, there were cheerleaders.
Yeah.
And so me and George Cape were, I guess, part of their mascots. They're the Yellow Jackets.
Okay.
And when the game would start, they would grab our hands and we'd run out onto the field.
Yes.
Well, my legs weren't very long, so they really kind of pulled me along. But that memory is still there.
Sure.
I remember it. It was fun. I had this little blue and gold outfit on and had it for a long time and had the little cap, and then through the many floods of the San Jacinto River, all that has gone away. So. Great memory.
So you were a Howard Payne Yellow Jacket?
Howard Payne Yellow
Jacket. Someday you're going to have to bring a picture by. I think I'd like to see if you.
Well, if I had it, I would show it to you. But it went away in the flood.
In the flood, okay. So you graduate from high school in Abilene,
yes.
And then you go to Baylor University, and you majored there in business.
Yes.
And so you get a degree.
No, a story about that. I wanted to major in art.
Did you?
But
So what stopped you?
It had too much math, and I wasn't that great in math. So I said, I guess I'll go to business. So I did that and became a secretary for the Scout and Phillips Petroleum in Abilene. And so that's my, I guess, kind of claim to fame.
Okay.
They may have wished I wasn't there, but I enjoyed it. I made some wonderful friends.
Yes. And perhaps you found a husband there?
Mm-hmm. He worked at Alco across the street, and he saw me one day at a restaurant, and he asked my best friend, who was I, because she worked there. And she told him, and she had her eye out for him also.
Uh-oh.
And so he called me and asked me out for a date. And so we went to a coat date. That's what you called it then. And then we married not too soon after that. And every time I went out with him, my mother would say, "How old is he?" He would be a year older. Finally, she said, "Just how old is that man?"
Very good. So you married, and then you became a housewife and a mother. You began to have kids. And how many children do you have? I know you have some grandkids.
I have 4 children.
Mm-hmm.
2 of them are deceased.
Oh,
We lost a little boy when he was 5.5 months old. Tough,
it is.
tough.
Yes.
But and then my older daughter is deceased. And then I have 4 grandchildren, and
I see pictures of at least one of the grandchildren quite frequently.
Yes,
The equestrian.
that's my great grandchild.
That's your great grandchild. Okay.
I have 4
okay.
great grandchildren.
So in the 70s, now you moved to Conroe, perhaps your husband's job,
Yes.
and he's deceased as well now.
Yes.
And what was his name?
John.
John. Okay, so John is maybe transferred, or he takes a new job, gets you to Conroe, and at some point in Conroe, you discover the Conroe Art League,
Yes.
maybe in about 1972.
I think somewhere
Yeah.
around in there.
Now, at that point in time, Norma, were you doing art? Had you picked up something that you're beginning to do, or did your first art experiment, endeavorment experience come with the Conroe Art League?
When I was in school,
Elementary?
I loved art.
Yeah.
And so I did art, and I had a teacher that encouraged me to continue with my art. And she was a lovely, lovely lady. Her name was Mrs. Landers. And when I'd go back to high school, to reunions and so forth, well, I took some of my art, cards and so forth, and she was at one of them, and she said, "I am so glad you continued with your art." So she kind of followed me from there on. She is deceased, of course, but
When you say an art card, is that what you said, Norma?
my
Art card.
watercolor cards,
Your watercolor
Yes.
cards. So tell us about that. They're like 3x5s, 5x7s.
Well, they're
larger. Or
I would say they're 5x6, 5x7.
5x6, 5x7.
And there was a lady in Angel Fire, New Mexico that made me giclées of some of the cards. And so I took some of those. And from there now I'm painting cards.
Why that? What attracted you to that, I guess, smaller format, if that's the right way? Did you just feel comfortable working at that size, or was somebody else that you knew doing that?
There were other people that were doing that, and I would send them to people, and that's how that evolved.
Yes.
And they said, "Norma, we would love to have some cards," and so then I would do that, and that got me on that format, and I'm continuing it now.
Continue it even now.
Yeah.
So you had a teacher that influenced you, and I suspect maybe you've had some classes and workshops through the years, maybe even a few at Cal, that you began to develop your skill. And your first medium of choice is watercolor. And that's what you did the cards, and you still do watercolor. We'll see some in a little bit. But were there any specific workshops or teachers that you had that you can think back and say, yeah, that was really a growing step for me, or something that really attracted?
I took from A.J. Schechter.
Okay.
And loved his work. And
he was local?
he lives in Champions Forest area.
That's here? I don't.
In Houston.
In Houston, okay.
And he, I loved the way he portrayed his art. My husband and I went to his home, and my husband fell in love with his art. And so that helped, you know. And we bought.
And he was a watercolorist.
He was a watercolorist. And we bought, I guess, 3 of his paintings, and they hung in my home in River Plantation for quite some
Number of
years.
Yeah.
And that made me love
Mm-hmm.
that medium.
Mm-hmm.
I've dabbled in them all, but that's my favorite.
And when you're painting watercolor, do you have a subject that you typically go to, or do you try them all? Landscape, still life, figurative, abstract, maybe?
I've done all those but figurative.
All those were figurative. Yeah, well, Norma at the Conroe Art League, in fact, going on right now is a life drawing class.
I know that.
So you could
yes.
get up and life draw with us. When
That'd
we do
probably
that.
be my failing class.
There's no failing in it. And I'd like to talk a little bit about art in a different way, and that's with your involvement in the Conroe Art League about in '72. So you've been quite a few years.
Don't
now.
go there.
Well, we're there already. So would you tell us what are some of the things you've done as a volunteer? Because volunteers are the lifeblood of the Art League, and we need them. You've done quite a few things, I'm thinking. Can you tell us some of the things that you've done at the Art League?
Of course, we were on the quote we called the hanging team,
Right.
and for quite some time, and loved doing it.
And for those that don't know, when we do a take-in at the art gallery, we do typically toward the first of the month. So the artists come in, they bring their work, they've registered, they signed up for a docentship, and they're going to drop their art, place their art there, and leave if things work right.
Yes.
And then some members of the team and do some things. And I know you and Shirley Blevins would look at the art and begin to place it, because there's an art in that art of placing art, right?
Right.
And what are some of the guidelines that maybe you think about when you've got the art in? You're looking at size, perhaps. What are some of the things that you're trying to
When
arrange
we opened the gallery,
well, whenever. If you were doing the take-in,
Okay.
and people are bringing their art, so now you and Shirley and the rest of the team are going to put the art, but you were kind of the first step.
yes,
to
we
place
were the
the-
first
yeah.
step. And Greg Campanella
I know that name.
Oh.
I don't know him, but I know the name.
was instrumental
Sculpture.
in starting us with a hanging team, and he taught us a way to hang,
And what
which
is
we
that
still
way?
do
And what is that
tonight.
way?
That you start in the center of the wall,
Okay.
and you pick your vocal point right there,
Mm-hmm.
what you want in the center, and you take it and go out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we always did.
Mm-hmm.
And we would pick 4 paintings
Mm-hmm.
for those walls.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would take it and where we could make it go.
Spread it out.
And there's a word for it, but I can't remember
I
what
can't
it
help you
is.
there either, but
But that's how we always hung. And then Craig got so busy with his statues and all of that is so memorable and very sought after.
yes, and I think he still has a studio right on Main
He
Street.
does. He
Just
does.
walk to the end of the block, just across the street. I wish I could think of the name of the studio, and we'd give a promotion on that one. But
Greg Campanella.
Greg Trampin, that's the name of the studio. But so you had a process, and I know I've picked up over time. Well, don't put if an artist brings in 2 or 3 pieces, don't put them all together.
No.
Separate them. You may separate by subject matter. You may separate by
Right.
medium, and so on. But you want, in the end, a very nice, balanced, attractive look to draw people into the
Yes,
gallery.
yes.
And that,
You know, you used to hang several like that,
Mhm.
and we wanted it simple
Mhm.
because
Sure.
so they can, and that's
Simple's
the
always
reason.
better.
And I know there's a word for it, but it's
We'll have to go back and
we'll have to
research
ask Craig.
that. We'll have to do that. And other involvement in the Art League. Did you ever serve on the board?
No,
Never have.
never have.
That surprises me. I did not know that.
Probably didn't want me.
I would have thought, yeah, you would have been a valuable member of the board at some point when they were growing, particularly when they moved in to the building, which I think was it 2011 maybe?
I think so.
Yeah.
And how blessed we are.
Yes, beautiful gallery. Well, it's not too late to get you on the board, so we'll soon be having a nominating committee come out. I'll have to mention your name. But on the team and a lot of shows you've been involved with, of course, I don't know if it's the main one, but it is an important one, the Lone Star Art Guild. We have our own, sometimes the fall and the spring judge show to qualify for the Lone Star Art Guild. And we have that show. Of course, we didn't have it this past year physically because of COVID. Did it online for the first time, but other times we would have it recently at a church, and you're very active there.
Very
because
active.
It's quite a process. All the panels are up. And,
It is a big process.
it is a big process, and so we hope to have those come back at some
I
point.
certainly hope so.
So maybe we could begin to look at some of your art. We have 3 pieces that we're going to see. And if we can take a look at the first, and I'll ask you to tell us the title. I'm going to guess it's watercolor, but tell us the title, and maybe it's mixed media. Some about the inspiration of it. If it was a photo, was it your own photo? Was it a reference photo taken from someone else? But what can you tell us about the piece?
Well, it's a reference photo, and the barn in the back is in another area, and the wagon was in another area, and it's my favorite place to go to.
Is that right? Where
Angel
is that?
Fire, New Mexico.
That's an Angel Fire in the winter.
In the winter, and the friends had this old wagon out in their yard, and I fell in love with it.
Yes.
And then, I drew it off and took a picture, and then that barn is kind of up in near the ski slope in Angel Fire, but off to the side, and it always intrigued me. My grandfather had a farm out of Tuscola, Texas, and raised cattle, and that barn, I mean, it just drew me to it, and so I merged the two and put it in a snow scene. And as I said, the pictures that were hanging on our wall were kind of in that those colors and so forth, and I thought, well, I can do that. I'll try it.
There you go. That's the spirit. I'm going to, looking at that painting, the impression I had as I was looking at it, and it's not a figurative drawing, and I won't be able to tell you the name of the piece, but I think it was by Andrew Wyeth, where there's a young woman in the field, and the house is in the distance. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
No.
But it reminded me of that, even though yours is not figurative, it's almost the same idea. Here's the wagon in the foreground, and the
it
barn
takes you
is
back in there. Yeah.
way back to the horizon to the barn. So that was interesting. So thank you for that one. Very nice piece. And the second piece, again, maybe a winter scene.
You're going to find out that my love is Angel Fire, New Mexico.
That is also Angel Fire. Okay.
As we were walking in the snow, I have friends, dear friends that still live here and so forth. They had a home in Angel Fire. Just sold it this last year. And we walked, and as you look down the hill was this house with the snow and that tree. And it always, I thought, was lovely. And so that's the reason I tried to paint it.
And that, do you know the type of tree it is?
No, I do not. It could be, it was not an aspen. It couldn't be an aspen.
I was going to guess.
But it may
you
be
said,
an aspen.
Right. Because it's all very, and it's near Taos.
Yes.
And I've been there, and you come down, I think they call it an alpine forest there, but it's very, very different when you're at that altitude and coming back down towards Santa Fe, and you have that. And what struck me about that work, Norma, is it looked abstract. And I just know you said the house because that was the house.
That was the house.
I thought it was a stump, but maybe it's the size.
Had a lot of snow on it.
It had a lot of snow. That was dramatic, though. Okay. Well, let's take a look at the third piece. Well, this is different. Okay, so tell us about what's the title of this one.
This is Poppy.
Okay.
And I'm whether it's Dancing in the Wind or something on that order. I'm not.
Now, is this all watercolor?
This is watercolor.
Nothing
and
else in there?
Zentangling. And so.
And Zentangling. Okay, and that would be the geometric formations you have in the back?
Yes, and it was, the background was more or less a pouring. And the poppy was too, but I had to control that red in there. There again, poppies grow in Angel Fire, New Mexico. And that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, and I like the way to the right, as we're looking at it, it kind of fades.
Fades
maybe,
in, yes.
That there's a word for that. That's going to escape into a lost contour.
Okay.
I think because it's fairly distinct with the other part. Then you have that lost contour to that piece to the side, and that's a poppy. And I would have guessed, but you said maybe some Zentangling. I would have guessed those geometric figures were something you embossed with some kind of a pattern or something, but you didn't. That was that.
I took the leaves and I did, the petals, and did those in one of the Zentangle patterns, and then came up and it was.
How big is that piece?
It is probably a 16 by 20. It's large.
Fairly large.
Hanging on my wall.
Yes.
Now.
I bet. We joked about your house because I've been there once. We brought a piece of furniture to you, which you had generously donated to the gallery to use.
Yes.
And then we moved on to another way to display the jewelry. So you said, well, I want my piece back. But you do store a lot of your art at home. You probably give a heck of a lot away as well. But is that room dedicated to all the art in there?
There's 2 bedrooms that have
2 bedrooms.
Total art supplies and pictures.
Oh my gosh!
And it's just I had to scale down, and and I didn't want to get rid of my art.
Well, certainly.
I mean, not that I wouldn't sell it, but that's where it is.
Let's go back maybe to the Lone Star Art Guild shows. And for those of you that don't know, the art leagues that are part of the Lone Star Art Guild, the art leagues will have their own show at the gallery, and then that qualifies you if you win a best of show, best landscape, or best floral. First, second, third, and first honorable mention qualifies the artist to exhibit in the Lone Star Art Guild, or as we say, LSAG show, convention show, which is once a year. And that just finished. Did you happen to?
I have one.
You have one?
I was shocked.
Yeah, what'd you get this year?
I got a first place.
Okay.
First
place in what division?
It was watercolor. And
you're a professional?
No, I'm a semi-professional.
You're a semi-professional. And again, the Lone Star Art Guild asks artists to, actually they qualify themselves as to if they're professional, semi-professional, non-professional, or adult student. And then the student, there are 3 different levels: elementary, middle school, and high school. So your watercolor won first place.
Well, I have to correct that. It wasn't watercolor, it was alcohol ink. Sorry about that.
No, that's even better.
Because it kind of looked, looked like water.
Yeah, I didn't know you did that.
Yeah.
Now, that's a new medium for you?
Very.
there. And how did you learn to do alcohol ink? Because if you haven't seen alcohol ink, it's brilliant colors, and it looks like it's just going every place, but that's the art, to bring it back and make it look like something. But brilliant colors with alcohol ink, in my opinion. So how did you learn to do it?
Well, our group that met at Christ Church, you know, don't remember exactly who taught us out there. One of the people that come out there, and we tried it. I don't think it was Golda, but I'm not positive.
Was it perhaps Brenda McDougall?
No.
Wasn't Brenda?
No.
Because Brenda is, of course, an Art League member, and she's a board member, and she does alcohol ink, and quite accomplished with it. But it wasn't
No,
Brenda.
because
She's done a workshop.
this is back
Okay.
several years, and we have pretty well. If somebody knows a medium, you know, they would show and that type of thing. And I apologize because I cannot tell you,
Sure.
but I fell in love with it and then kind of went off on my own with what I wanted to do.
Easy to see. And we have an honor at the Art League every 3 months. There's a vote on what we call the banner piece, and you know that. And the people vote on it. It's not judges coming in. It's the artists and guests that come into the gallery. They vote on it. And that piece that's voted the banner award, it hangs in the courtyard. So you get a very nice position there. And you've won that piece.
Mine was the first one.
Yours was the first one to
I
win.
felt very blessed.
Well, I bet you were. Do you remember what that piece, what it was, a
It
watercolor?
was the snow scene
It was that snow
of
scene
that
that you showed
house
us?
entry, yes.
Oh, so that was some good validation back then.
And it's hanging at the Salvation Army.
Oh, very nice. And that's one thing we do at the Art League is that the banner hangs in the courtyard for 3 months, and then we find a nonprofit agency. It used to be in the city of Conroe, but now we've expanded, kind of saturated in the city of Conroe to Montgomery County and offered the piece. So that's quite an honor. I know the symphony has quite a few at their building on Frazier. So you had the banner, quite an honor. And then you still have the original piece.
Yes, it's hanging in my dining room.
Very good, very good. And of course, you enter quite often the monthly shows that we have at the gallery. And I know you like to learn, as we talked about the alcohol ink, and I'm trying to remember that last demo artist when we were still, prior to the pandemic, we had a demo artist come in, and she was doing something different as well. And I remember you and Shirley and a lot of other people were there because you had taken one of her classes. Do you remember the one I'm talking of? It's unusual, putting together almost like a collage piece. And you
Yes. Yes.
You had an animal that you made. Do you remember? Was it a rooster?
Yes.
It was a rooster.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that rooster, yes.
Yes. You still have that?
Yes, I do.
You still do that kind of work?
No.
Yeah, but it was fun.
But it was fun.
Yeah.
It was, we did those out of church and at Christ Church. And I enjoyed doing that. That was a lot of fun. She is a fun lady.
Yeah, I remember at the demo, a lot of you artists, you and Shirley and some others brought the piece that you all had done, and it was fascinating to watch her do it, and then at the same time see the finished pieces that you all had done. So very good. Have you ever taught art?
No.
Have you ever done commissions?
No.
Okay. Well, Norma, I thank you for that walk through your life in art and hearing about your, coming from Abilene. I didn't know where you're from, so I've been through there. So nice to hear about that. So to see Norma's art, as well as the art of other talented artists at the Conroe Art League, please visit us at the Best Little Art Gallery in historic downtown Conroe. We're located at 127 Simonton Street, and we're open from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday. And we call ourselves CAL, so come visit us to create, appreciate, and learn.